What's going on, guys? So episode 2 of season 3 of The Flash has come and gone, and it seems like the Flashpoint storyline is coming to an end because we saw Barry have a conversation with Jay Garrick, and he basically told him, he was like, look dude, here's a fucking cup, I'll smash it, and every time you go back and fuck up the timeline, this is what you're doing to it. In all seriousness, Barry has learned that he has to live with the things that changed from his Flashpoint decision. He decided to go save his mom, spend some time with his mom and dad, but it changed a bunch of shit, and Jay Garrick told him, he's like, you can't keep going back and trying to fix the future because every time you do it, you're just fucking up a little thing. It's never gonna be the same, so you can't get back to that life that you had, so you have to learn to live with your mistakes. So that is what we're going from now. Like now, Flash is going to be the storyline that we are currently in right now with all the little things that changed, and a whole lot of things have changed, and we're about to talk about them right now. Okay, so let's run down the list of things that changed from season 2 to season 3 with this current timeline we have now. So we saw from episode 1 that Joe and Iris don't have a good relationship. It turns out that Joe never told Iris that her mother was still alive. Now this is pretty interesting because Wally's still in the picture, and we saw from last season that Wally came into the picture when his mother showed up because she was dying and all of that jazz. So I'm kind of interested to see how Wally stayed around and Iris didn't know about her mother being alive. You would have thought Wally would have said something, unless in this timeline he showed up after she died and she still tried to talk to Joe and all of that shit. So that is the first thing that we know that changed, was Iris is upset with Joe because he never told her that her mother was still alive. Since we're on that Iris train, we also found out that Barry has managed to kiss Iris twice and erase both of those times. Next thing on the list is sad Cisco. We found out that Cisco's brother died in a drunk driving accident, and he's pissed off at Barry because Barry won't go back and change the timeline to bring his brother back to life. Also, this freaking timeline has given us a Cisco that has been able to work on his freaking vibe gauntlets and shit, and he's able to get out in the field and be like, wah, 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 wah. That was pretty cool. Next up, this freaking Flashpoint timeline brought in Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter universe into the Flash universe, and just raised a lot of questions. 1, he's a dick. 2, I'll talk about later in the video. Next up on the list is that beautiful, lovely Caitlyn is Killer Frost. And I was like, woo! I didn't think it was gonna happen this fast. Now, I did know that Killer Frost was coming back this season because Kevin Smith is freaking directing an episode called Killer Frost, which I think it's episode 7. So right now, Killer Frost is more than likely just like a proto version of it. And I guess Caitlyn's gonna be full Killer Frost whenever that episode comes along with Kevin Smith, or she's going to reveal that she's Killer Frost on that episode. I don't really know, but it's going to be interesting because is she going to be good or is she going to be bad? And is she going to be able to change into Killer Frost? Like, do you think she's going to be able to go like, wah! And go into Killer Frost mode? Or will she always be Killer Frost like she was on Earth 2? That's going to be pretty interesting because I don't know if they're going to have a character that is always Killer Frost, and it's going to be really interesting if they do make her evil because she's such a big, vital part of the Flash team. But if she's good, why is she going to have the name Killer Frost? Who's she going to be killing? Or are they just going to pull the name from freaking Earth 2 and be like, we'll just call you Killer Frost even though you're good and you're working on our side? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Caitlyn because I'm all like, oh shit, motherfucking Killer Frost, bitch! One thing you guys might find interesting is if you don't read the comics or you don't keep up with comic book news, Killer Frost is about to become part of the Justice League. That is right! That team with freaking Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman and shit, they're getting new members, and the freaking new member is going to be Killer Frost. So it is very possible that we'll see Caitlyn, aka Killer Frost, in future crossover big event episodes on the CW. Another thing that changed that wasn't really a big thing, but they just wanted to kind of show you that Flashpoint affected everybody and not just freaking the Flash's characters. They went over, when he was talking to Felicity, we saw that John Diggle no longer has a daughter, he has a son. I found this interesting because if you guys watched Legends of Tomorrow, you know there was an episode where we saw Connor Hawke, and Connor Hawke was the son of John Diggle. So now, with Flashpoint changing, it seems that Diggle doesn't have to have another kid anymore. He just automatically already has a son that will grow up to be Connor Hawke if they still keep that same storyline and freaking Diggle's son becomes Connor Hawke. Of course, that's not the way it is in the comics. Connor Hawke is actually the son of Oliver Queen, but in this series, it is the son of John Diggle. So that is pretty interesting that they made that little change to make that future still kind of a reality. A bunch of other little things changed with the whole Flashpoint storyline, like the police chief coming back or whatever his name was. There was a bunch of little things, but the only other last big thing that changed was the birth of the rival, and that we saw that in Flashpoint's Paradox timeline from episode 1. We saw that the rival, was this new villain, but now in this timeline, for some reason, he doesn't have his powers, but he remembers that he has powers, and he gets them unlocked from Alchemy somehow. That's going to be really interesting to see how Alchemy did that. How did Alchemy give him his powers back? Does this power of Alchemy control the Speed Force? That's going to be really interesting, but we'll touch on that in the later part of the video. So the rival is reborn. He meets up with the Flash after he's at that awkward dinner. They have a conversation. They speed around and do shit, and freaking the Flash loses the rival. And you notice somebody is watching him, which I'm assuming that person was Jay Garrick, because Jay Garrick, after sending Harrison Wells and Jesse Quick back to Earth 2, apparently he said that he talked to Harrison, and freaking, he was just like, he told me everything. He told me that your dad was, my doppelganger and all that shit, which still doesn't make any fucking sense, but after that whole conversation, that's when he gives Barry the whole speech about you can't keep fucking changing the timeline, blah, 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 blah. From there, fast forward through the episode to where Barry reveals that, I changed the timeline, blah, blah, blah. Everybody decide if you want to know, I'll tell you, but if you don't want to know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we had all of that shit, and then it was again Flash versus rival. The fight ends. Flash kicks his ass because freaking Vibe shows up and helps him with his new gauntlets and shit. He's like, wah, 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 wah. And then they beat the rival, and he puts him in jail. Now, I'm not too sure if you guys picked up on it, but when Barry was having that conversation with everybody at Star Labs, and he was talking about how he already knew who Edward Claris was, and that he's from this Paradox timeline that he was in, he also mentioned that somehow those people are getting their powers back, because Edward Claris remembered who he was. He knew about that timeline. So Barry was like, it seems like those people from that timeline are going to get their powers back, meaning it is only a matter of time before Kid Flash returns. Bam! And we already know on episode 3, which is next week's episode, freaking Jesse Quick is going to have her powers. And I just want to bring it up. Last year, a lot of people kept telling me, oh, Jesse Quick and freaking Wally are never going to get their powers. Well, what now, bitch? What now? They're both on this show, and everybody was like, it's not called Flash and Friends. It's not called Flash and Wally and freaking... I told you there was going to be more speedsters on this damn show. Just because it's called Flash doesn't mean you can't have friends speedsters. I told you. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest because that damn comment got left so much last year saying that there wasn't going to be a Kid Flash and a Jesse Quick. It was obvious they got hit by the particle accelerator, like it was only a matter of time. So at the end of the episode, we finally see Barry kiss Iris for the first time for the third time, and that is more than likely going to stick unless he changes the timeline again, but this essentially kills my hopes for Team Patty unless they break up. I feel like it's still way too early for freaking West Allen to get together, and it should bring back Team Patty maybe after this season happens and they kick out Draco fucking Malfoy out of this show. They're like, we need another freaking chemist person lady to work here, and Team Patty comes in at the end of the season. She's like, hey Barry, we're gonna work together and we're gonna... Because Team Patty. All jokes aside, let's talk about fucking Alchemy, because we saw a lot of him in this episode. He showed up at the end of the episode with the freaking scratching in the mirror shit. So, who the fuck is Alchemy? I should say Doctor Alchemy, or Cisco's gonna get pissed at me. Before the season even started, I automatically thought Doctor Alchemy was gonna be Draco Malfoy. I was like, it's fucking Draco Malfoy. You don't bring in Malfoy to not be a big villain. So I was like, yeah, dude, he's totally freaking Doctor Alchemy. Let's just seal it up, package it, and send that shit out, because it's totally gonna be him. But after tonight's episode, I'm like, wait, it might actually not be Draco Malfoy. It might be somebody else, and Malfoy might just be not necessarily a villain. I mean, he could turn into a villain later, but he could just be a pain in the ass to Barry, and he could be somebody that is going to expose Barry for who he really is. Malfoy has said that he doesn't trust Barry Allen and that something is off about him. And you know, Barry's doing the whole good guy routine because he has to hide who he is. So I think throughout the season, freaking Malfoy is going to try to find out who Barry is, because he's already catching on to Barry doing shit like taking that sample really quick, and he knew that that was impossible to do that, and he already knew who Edward Claris was. So I think this guy is going to be so smart that freaking Barry throughout the season is going to have to, like, try to trick him to be like, oh shit, like I can't have this guy on my tail. He's starting to find out who I am, and he doesn't want to be exposed. So I think that might be Malfoy's character throughout the season. I mean, it's possible that he could turn into a villain, but the way tonight's episode happened, or this week's episode, it kind of threw me off of like, there's no way he could be Alchemy unless he is Alchemy and he has the speedsters speed him to everywhere he needs to go, because you saw that Flash or Barry Allen went to go talk to him and he's like, hey, I need your freaking records. I need to know who this is. Freaking Edward Claris, blah, blah, blah. And then Flash took off to where he would find the rival. And then Alchemy was there. So there is no way that what's-his-name got from point A to point B unless freaking the rival, he was like, hey, I need you to pick me up. And rival was like, and freaking took him over there. There's just no way. So now I'm kind of thinking like, all right, Malfoy's not Doctor Alchemy, but he could still be a pain in the ass to Barry Allen. If Malfoy is not Doctor Alchemy, then we're left with the question, who the hell is Alchemy? And I think the biggest thing is, well, okay, in the comics, what's his name? In the comics, Dr. Alchemy's name is Alvin Desmond. But also another thing that has happened in the comics is that the name Dr. Alchemy has been used in very different ways for supervillains, or he's had different names throughout his history, and he's went under other things like the Alchemist or the Element. So he's had different names, and there were rumors coming into this season that freaking Dr. Alchemy might get a whole new identity on the Flash show. So right now, it could be totally up in the air, and we could not know who Dr. Alchemy could be, because he's possibly getting a whole new freaking identity in this show. We may not find out Dr. Alchemy's identity in this one episode, but we can try to figure out what the hell he's trying to do and how he's doing the things he does. Like, how the fuck did he give somebody speedster abilities? First off, let's go ahead and identify what alchemy means, because I don't know if you're like me, you didn't know exactly what it meant, and, you know, you could get confused, because I'm like, science, bitch! But I don't think it's that simple. Let's go ahead and refer to the Googles. So, alchemy, their definition is the medieval frontrunner of chemistry, based on the supposed transformation of matter. It was concerned particularly with attempts to convert base materials into gold or to find a universal elixir. A seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or combination. So it's science with magic, bitch! So Dr. Alchemy's got some sciencey magic going on, and it does make sense that it's a medieval type of chemistry or whatever, because we saw him worshiping people, and he had that whole tomb of worshipers, and they were like, do whatever the hell they gotta freaking do to worship. Who the fuck are they worshiping, should I ask that question too? But yeah, so we know Alchemy has some type of magical powers, and Caitlyn said that he became freaking Dr. Alchemy, or freaking Edward Claris became the rival or whatever through alchemy. So, are we just saying that freaking Dr. Alchemy has the powers to give people powers through alchemy? Could be the reason why the rival was shedding his skin, because I don't know why the fuck the rival is shedding skin. Obviously, he's not going to have the same powers as you would get from the comics, because if you guys don't know, the rival in the comics got his powers from creating V9, but if you remember, V9 was a big thing in freaking season 2 of The Flash, so they're not going to reuse that storyline. So the rival has gotten his powers in a different way. So we're assuming freaking Alchemy was the one that awoken the powers in him or whatever. He gave him back the powers he had from that paradoxical timeline. So if Alchemy does have this sciencey chemical shit that's all magic and whatnot, he's able to create the Speed Force, or he's able to create a speedster. But why is the speedster shedding? Like, I don't get that. Why does he have skin? And they did a sample, and they found out that it's Edward Claris. So his DNA is in there. That has to be Claris freaking shedding his skin. Like, why is he shedding, though? Because, is it because he's a speedster, and since his body is regenerating so fast, it's shedding off a whole pelt of skin? Like, I don't get it, and it was kind of confusing. I'm just assuming it has to do with Alchemy's power. He's not able to, I don't know, maybe the body has to regenerate and continually freaking change itself. I don't get it. My only assumption is it has to do with something that Alchemy did. Another thing, at the end of the episode, we saw Edward Claris get put into a cell. So, like, he's captured now. So I'm thinking the rival's done. The rival was only a part of the Flashpoint storyline. I feel like we'll see him again. I feel like that would be kind of like a cop-out for the rival just to get beat in 2 episodes. I'm assuming he's gonna get out when Kid Flash gets his powers back. he's going to come back somehow. Somebody's going to break him out of that freaking jail, and we'll have the rival and probably Savitar versus Kid Flash, Jesse Quick, and the Flash. There's got to be a 5-way speedster battle happening this season. That's what I'm calling right now. Anyways, maybe not Jesse Quick, but at least it'll be 2-on-2. But it would be cool if we get 3-on-2. That'll be pretty awesome. Anyways, so I don't think the rival is completely done, but we saw at the end of it, somebody showed up to the freaking rival's cell and slammed him against the wall with what looked like to be a robot hand. Who the fuck was that? It had a big old arm and just slammed him against the thing. Was that freaking one of Alchemy's henchmen? Like, what the hell? Is Alchemy super powerful? Because he slammed him against the wall. He didn't use that little crystal thing that he used on Barry. So I'm pretty interested, like, Alchemy, what you got up your sleeve? I mentioned this earlier. Who the hell was Alchemy worshiping? Because he was actually there worshiping. He wasn't part of the freaking... He wasn't like the king and they were worshiping Alchemy. No, he was worshiping something as well. And I have a theory on what they could be worshiping. What if freaking Doctor Alchemy is worshiping the Dominators? And if you don't know who the Dominators are, they are going to be the villains for the 4-night crossover that will involve The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. I talked about this in the Daily Dose, but the Dominators are a superior race of aliens that want to come and destroy Earth because they're afraid that the Earth is going to become superior to them with all the superheroes that they're making. The Dominators were in a comic book series called Invasion, which is where that storyline came from. They invaded Earth because they had so many superheroes like Superman, Supergirl, all that shit. So they wanted to come destroy Earth before they got too strong to take over them. So that was the whole plan, and that is what has been announced for the 4-night crossover. The Dominators are going to be the people that come and try to kill Earth on this 4-night crossover. In this episode, we saw Dr. Alchemy worshiping somebody, and when he was fighting the Flash, he said that he was preparing the people of this Earth for what's coming or whatever. He was preparing people for what's coming of some shit. So what's coming? What is he preparing people for? What if he's freaking preparing his own team to join the Dominators or to possibly take on the Dominators? But since he's worshiping them, if that is who he's worshiping, then maybe he feels like since they worship him, they're going to be able to join the Dominators, which I doubt the Dominators are going to allow that kind of shit. But trying to put some freaking, puzzle pieces together really early, I'm kind of thinking that that could be something that's happening. Now, I'm sure there is a reason why Dr. Alchemy is worshiping people. I'll try to look more into it. But you know how the CW universe works. They connect different shit differently and whatnot. So I'm thinking it could be possible that freaking Alchemy is trying to connect with the Dominators, and that could be a connection to the 4-night crossover, which would be really fucking awesome. That is all I got, guys. I want to know what your thoughts on this episode are tonight. What do you think is going to happen with the rival? How do you feel about this new timeline that we're living in? Do you think Killer Frost is going to be a killer? Is she going to be good? Is she going to be bad? And who the hell do you think Dr. Alchemy is, and what is his plan? Who is he worshiping? Let me know in the comment sections down below. Guys and gals, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with all your Flash buddies. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things nerdy and geeky on this channel. As always, guys, I am your host, JUICEbox. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. If I have my daily dose of juice, see you guys next time. Bye!